Hi, I'm Dino Tripodis. Issue 181 of The Incredible Hulk with Wolverine can fetch up to $20,000. I had it. Do I have it now? No. Scott Morris from Comic Town is our guest tonight on Whiskey Business. I'm Dino Tripodis, and welcome to Whiskey Business, the podcast not so much about whiskey as it is one with whiskey. In my basement, there are a lot of things in my basement. There's albums galore, Hansberry.
Yeah,
that's right
I've sipped
up
it through
alley.
those.
Yeah. There's all types of memorabilia down there on the walls, etc., etc. And in one big case and in a bunch of boxes are things that have followed me since, honestly, since my childhood in Steubenville, Ohio.
That's cool.
There are comics upon comics upon comics down there that I do not know if they are of value. I knew of one that was of particular value, and at the time, I sold this comic book about 5-6 years ago. And what I thought was, what's it say on the 25, 50, 40 cents, whatever it was?
Oh, man.
Right.
Sold it for $450.
That's a good profit.
I'm not a mathematician, but that was a good score.
Then come to find that as the years have progressed, that particular comic, issue number 181, the Hulk and supposedly the first appearance of Wolverine, fetches a lot more. Now, granted, I can't remember the condition that it was in at the time that I sold it. It wasn't in what they call mint condition. I don't even know what mint condition is. That's why our guest tonight, Scott Morris from Comic Town, is with us this evening. And we'll be talking to Scott more about this treasure trove that some people might be sitting on and don't even know it. I want to find out what's going on in the comic book world, how you predict what's going to be hot, what you know that's hot, what's old that's hot, what's going to be new that could be hot. I grabbed some at random from the basement for you to look at, which are probably not going to be worth a goddamn thing before it's all said and done.
Hey,
I know.
here's
Here's why. He brought in comics as well, and his are pristine.
It's like
They're
a
in
bulletproof
envelopes.
case.
I know. Everything is nice and shiny and neat and so forth and so on. But thank you for coming and doing this. And we're gonna have some fun tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. And who knows? Maybe in my stack of junk back there, there's something I'm not even aware of.
You never know.
You do.
I do.
You do.
Yeah.
You do.
It only takes one.
You do. Okay, so we'll get more with Scott here in just a moment. Our guest bottle tonight is S.E. Callahan's Distiller Select Straight Bourbon Whiskey from the Tennessee Hills Distillery. This was a gift. I love bourbon
fancy.
gifts.
These
Can
are
I
the
just
best
say that?
things. They're the best things.
I love bourbon. You know what? If you want to gift Whiskey Business a bottle of whiskey that we haven't had on the show, because I believe this is bottle 210 or 211, by all means, we would love to say thank you, as I will say thank you to my friend Bert DiBenedetto, who supplied us with this particular bottle, which I'm sorry,
Bert.
boys, I've kind of sampled it already.
Go to the
Bert,
website and send us an email with something you want to give us.
I always pour the guest first, Scott.
We had a Bert on Whiskey Business, like 3? He was early in the show.
We had Bert on before we ever did.
Well, hold on. There's still
before we ever
other
did
stuff in there.
What?
I still have.
You still got some of the chip whiskey?
Yep, chip whiskey.
Yeah.
The Chip Cosell brought a bottle of Traverse City, which we have had on the podcast before, with Alex Hasty. I have that Rain Man kind of mentality. You tell me the bottle, and I can tell you who the guest was.
I can't.
It's crazy.
I can't.
It's crazy.
But he can't remember his email password.
No, I can't. I can't remember an email password. It's the important
1, 2, 3,
things
4
in life
something.
before it's all said and done. But this is our guest bottle this evening. It's aged a little over 3 years, and I'll be very curious to see what you guys think about it, because some people actually love this whiskey, and I didn't hate it. I don't know if I love it yet, but you would think after as much as was gone that I probably do. But take a sip, and let's have an early opinion on said whiskey. Scott, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Nice to have you. Do you drink whiskey as a rule?
I do.
Do you?
I started a few years ago.
You got a few years ago. You got some favorites?
Oh, heck. I like this. This is good.
That's delicious.
Do you like it? It's smooth. I'll give
Yeah.
it that. It's 90 proof. It's not expensive.
Yeah.
It runs about $35 a bottle.
It's not
White
bad.
chocolate.
You got the chocolate? See, I got this. I got the smoky. I get a little bit of tobacco in this one, which I like. And it's funny. That's the funny thing about whiskeys. You know, sometimes you try one day, your palate changes all the time when it comes to whiskey. When I first tried this, I went, but second go round, I'm liking it a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's pretty tasty.
You
I
like
can't
it?
blame
Yeah.
you. Yeah, this is great.
I pick up a little cherry.
Real creamy.
Smooth, very smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we don't have a lot of it, which is why we're probably going to drink out of chips bottle before it's all said and done. Because, S.E. Callahan's, 90 proof, and reasonable, under $50 a bottle, which we love.
And did he bring this in from out of state? Do we know? Are we allowed to say that?
So you can't get it here in Ohio or no?
He was on a trip.
Tennessee Hills.
And he picked it up. He must have been in Tennessee. He must have been someplace. And he
So
picked
this
it
is
up.
all right. So this is the distiller select of Tennessee Hills.
Yeah,
so this
Tennessee
is like
Hills Distillery.
the fancy.
Nice.
I don't know a lot of the history about it. As we've said 1,000 times on this podcast, we are not whiskey experts. We're just whiskey lovers, and we love to experiment and learn as we go. Which, you know, we're going pretty good. 210, 211. We never repeat a bottle on the podcast.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, that's what started with me in the whiskey was
How so?
COVID.
COVID?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me and a buddy, we were like, you know what? We like smoking food. We like drinking.
Yeah.
Like, why don't we just sit on our back patio and smoke food and drink whiskey?
So what was your first whiskey? What was your first bourbon encounter, if you don't mind me asking?
I
I always like to hear about people's firsts.
Yeah. It was Woodford Reserve Rye.
Okay. So you started with a rye.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very bold.
So there was
move.
there was a charity event. I think it was on your show. And
Oh,
it
yeah.
was the
Family.
we had to make I don't know. I
Kids
had to,
again.
Thank you.
The what?
well, I had to buy a
again.
watermelon.
Yeah,
I remember it.
Remember Jesse made the jalapeno
The
watermelon.
jalapeno. Yes, the jalapeno
Okay.
watermelon.
Okay.
Yeah, that was like my first. Oh, okay. So I'm gonna actually
We did that
look into
online.
this, other than just like
Is that the one we did? That was a remote one. That was,
Yeah, it was
during
that
COVID.
was
smoking.
Yeah,
Right,
right.
yeah. That was my first actual experience into
Look at
hey
you.
whiskey.
You're a gateway.
That's right.
I'm a
Yeah,
gateway drug.
you
I'm
basically
a
gateway drug me
I'm a
into your
gateway drug.
podcast.
That's
That's
nice.
that's 100%
That's good.
what happened. Yeah.
That's good. And so, but you started with rye, and a lot of people don't. No,
I love that. That was fantastic. So I
I'm-
was sitting there and I'm in my kitchen like a dumbass, right? I'm chopping up
like a dumbass.
Yeah, 100% like a dumbass.
Okay.
And chopping up all the ingredients and this and that, and I was like, oh, because there was something about simple syrup, and I was like, no, I mean I know what simple syrup is. I'm like, no, you got to make. I'm gutting and pulping a watermelon, the whole 9 yards. Like
doing that.
I am all in on this thing. I spent like 3.5 hours prior to that
For one
show for one cocktail, and that's what ended up happening. Yeah. So then I'm sipping on. I was like, you know what? We're just gonna try this stuff straight out of the bottle. I'm not gonna worry about the cocktail. Like, I got 3 hours of prep time.
Right.
So I started sipping on it. I was like, holy shit, this is really tasty.
I don't need all this other stuff.
I don't know what this.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on here. I mean, the cocktail was delicious.
Yeah, that was
I have nothing but respect for the people who love craft cocktails. I have nothing but even more respect for the people who make them so magnificently, but day in and day out, just put ice in the glass and let me taste the whiskey as it was meant to be tasted.
So then-
either neat or a little bit of ice and go from there.
Yeah. So that was my first dive into the whiskey world of paying attention to what am I tasting. Like, I don't have the vocabulary. You guys are talking about vanilla and chocolate and
we've
smoky
learned-
and all those kind.
we've learned
When
to
you
do
say
that.
them out loud, I know what you're talking about. Like, I can hear it. I was like, oh yeah, that's
You haven't
what
been
that
able-
was.
You can't pick up on it yet?
No,
You will.
No, I went to
You
some
will.
of those. Like, I got in the Central Ohio Whiskey Society, have the cows thing.
Oh, you're in
After
there?
that, yeah.
We're
and,
not in there. You know what?
and
We're not
I've
in there.
and I've bought some of their various barrel picks and different things like that. But
They're a great group.
no, great. But then they put the little pie chart in front of me.
Yeah.
At Buckeye Bourbon, and I was like, I don't know what any of that means.
Yeah.
Like,
Pie
you got
chart.
you got the
Once
little
once
thing
you
with the.
involve science with drinking. It's
I
just
actually
like,
did a
Yeah,
barrel.
I didn't
did a-
understand any of it. I was like, yeah, I don't know. This one was tasty.
My last pie chart was with the guy who started cows.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. We were at High Bank, and we picked some of the bourbons that they've got coming out now as we speak.
Awesome.
And so we had lots of
Yeah.
pie charts that night. We had like over a dozen pie charts.
Yeah, that I glossed
go
over
through.
that. I walked away from the table.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was
We'll
like,
get
yeah,
there.
these were good.
After a dozen, all those pie charts just start looking like pie.
You know
I
what?
didn't know what they
Just-
wanted 3 or 4 drinks in.
Just be a whiskey.
If you like
be
it,
a lover. Enjoy
Yeah.
enjoy what you're drinking. Don't worry about the pie charts. You're already good at something else, which is why you're here tonight. The comic books.
Yeah.
The comic books.
let me do the business real quick.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the business.
You always forget that.
I suck.
It's all right. It's like
I'm not good about the business.
normally like what I do sometimes on podcasts when the business is in the front, I like fast forward through it. So
Yeah.
people we've just captivated everyone's audience for like 10 minutes now. So
Did he say business in the front, party in the back?
it's yes, we are the
Yes.
this is the
This is a
mullet.
podcast. This
All right, I
is
was
the
checking.
podcast. It's,
Whiskey business
Asking for a
is
friend.
the podcast not so much about whiskey as it is one with whiskey.
That's right.
Thank you for subscribing on your favorite podcasting app, whichever podcasting app you like the best. We're probably on it. Go ahead and smash that subscribe button.
Smash.
And
Did it on cue this
that was
time.
good.
Yeah,
That
you
was
did.
great, guys. And please share. Like, actually, that was actually a cool story, Scott. How you watched us and you tried one of the drinks and that kind of stuff. We hear that all the time. It's very cool. It's
We don't
grassroots.
we don't hear it all the time.
Well, that's the first time anybody.
You heard it once.
That's true.
You heard it once.
Which is
Grassroots.
all the time.
Grassroots is.
We heard it once
is
all that time.
huge. Whiskey Business is also on YouTube, and this will be a fun one to watch because Scott and both Dino and I have some cool comic books that we'll be showing.
Yeah.
And,
Well, I don't know if they're cool, but
well,
you know,
some cool
Oh no,
visuals.
mine are cool.
yours are cool.
Yeah.
Yours are very cool.
Whiskey
I'm saying
business.
ours are. You know,
Yeah, I don't know.
with
Yeah.
Dino
I don't know.
Tripodis. Whiskey Business with Dino Tripodis on YouTube. Smash
Posting a lot
that
of
subscribe
shorts.
button.
And also,
Ding,
I
ding,
want
ding.
John Whitney has also shortened up Whiskey Wisdoms and
Yeah, there's YouTube's pushing those YouTube shorts.
the YouTube
Yeah,
shorts.
So we're doing okay on those.
We're having fun with those.
Not today though.
Don't worry about
It's
today.
only like whatever.
Would you release it during rush hour?
Yeah, all the other ones were released early in the morning around 7:00, and they got 2,000 views.
Talk
or
about
whatever.
pie charts. There's a strategy behind all the social
There's a
media
strategy,
shit.
man.
You know, one of these days, you
I'm
know
not
what?
releasing one
This
after
is our
lunch
5th
anymore.
year doing whiskey business. One of these days, we're going to
do
learn
it
the
right.
analytics,
We're gonna do
right?
it
Well,
right.
and when we learn how to do it right, you'll see what
haven't tried
happens.
it. Do it.
You'll
Try it.
see.
So help us out
see.
because we're dumb, but we are on Facebook and Instagram, Twitter. Johnny said the YouTube
Help us
there.
because we're dumb.
Whiskeybusinesspod.com.
What's
And
our podcast? We're dumb.
We're dumb. Whiskey, and also thank you to our parent company who hopefully isn't listening right now. The
Evergreen.
Podcast.
No, I do get the breakdown from Evergreen. You guys get it too.
know,
You see
yeah,
what we're
they're
doing. We're
legit.
doing all right with
They're
it. We're
legit.
doing our.
They
We're
take
doing
the
our
consistent.
legitness
We're
away
consistent.
from
We're
us
holding
having
our
to worry
own.
about it.
We're holding our
It's
own.
better than my podcast.
You have a podcast?
No.
No.
See?
See?
No.
And now you definitely won't after
No.
you're after being
No, I
a part
don't.
of this fiasco.
My business partner does, but I don't.
So are you ever go on his podcast?
God no.
What's his podcast?
So it's on YouTube. It's Comic Town TV. They do one called Black, White, and Red All Over.
Okay.
And every week they review new comic books that are coming out.
Oh, see, that's a built-in audience.
Yeah.
You probably have a huge following.
Yeah. I'm sure some of them drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. That's a thought. Do a podcast that already has a built-in following.
If only people like whiskey.
How long you been doing this? Comic books.
Actively about 8-9 years.
As far as the store?
Yeah.
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 Were
was
you
a-
into comics before that?
Yeah. So in 86, I moved to Columbus, Ohio, Dublin. And that was when I first got access to a comic book store. And
What comic book store was it?
it was Central City
Ah, nice.
in Newmarket Mall.
Is that
And
the one I used to go to?
it was on Sawmill Road in just before 270. Doesn't mean anything, but like right up in that area, that was the first time I got a place that I could ride my bike to that wasn't, a feed store, and started reading comics. Like that's what made me a reader.
Back up.
Yeah.
That wasn't a feed store.
Yeah.
So you're a country boy?
Country adjacent.
Country adjacent?
Yeah, we're both Northern Indiana guys.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm from Fort Wayne, originally, but not in
Fort Wayne?
Fort Wayne, Indiana.
We're
Yeah.
from Indianapolis. We're brethren.
Yeah.
We're
Practically.
Hoosiers.
I was,
We're
born,
Hoosiers.
I was born in Gary, Indiana.
We're all Hoosiers.
Yeah. Well, I was born
That was a
there.
different. That was a different Gary back then.
Yeah, it was a different. Yeah, that was a Jackson 5 Gary back
Yeah,
then.
that was a different Gary.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was born in Columbia City, which is right outside of Fort Wayne, but I grew up in a little neighborhood outside of Fort Wayne, surrounded by cornfields.
So when you had access to ride your bike, there wasn't a
The only
feed
place
store.
I could ride
Okay,
my
that's-
bike to was a feed store, so I could buy like a tractor and a frozen Snickers bar. There were no comics there,
Dog toys.
basically.
So how did you discover comics? I mean,
My older brother would pick up comic books every now and then at the grocery store, so I would just basically get to read his leftovers, and he would read like Rom and Conan. So I started a little bit early on Conan the Barbarian and things like that, but
I actually have ROM down in the basement.
yeah, Rom
Yeah.
was a big it was a big deal.
It was a big
Space Knight.
It was, yeah. ROM is down in the basement.
Yeah.
Issue number 1.
Is he
Yeah.
tied
down
up?
in the basement?
That's getting a little heat now.
Is it really?
Not a lot, but a little,
Really?
but a little bit.
All right.
Yeah, it's not the dollar bin book that it used to be,
Well,
but
let me
it's
sell it
getting
now
there.
so it can be worth a lot more money in 5 years, and I can have regret all over again.
Sell it to me, and then I'll sell it back to you.
Anyway, I digress a little bit, but you went.
But
you-
yeah,
you
so I
started with
got
a-
access to a comic book store. I wasn't much of a reader then. Now I'll read anything. Was able to ride my bike to a comic book store, and that's just where it kind of started. The bug bit me in '86. I was in 6th grade, and
You were in 6th
all in,
grade. So
yeah.
because I started getting comic books. They were my thing when I was living in Dalton, Illinois, and I had the type of family. I saved some back, we moved to Greece, and I took a lot of those comics. I couldn't take them all.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't. My father wouldn't let me. I had to take like my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I moved to Steubenville, Ohio, and would buy comic books, my grandmother thought they were trash
yep.
and did not want me reading those. If you're going to read, go to the library, which
Yeah.
I did. And all the comics that I had accumulated, even in Greece, I bought comic books.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she threw them all away.
Those are starting to come
threw-
around.
She threw those comic books away. She threw my Uncle Chris's comic books away. I think about all these comic books from this that were bought originally in the 60s.
Yeah.
That some crazy grandmother
Yeah.
threw away because it was trash. And
So even those
breaks my heart.
even those Greek comics, the Greek printings, the Spanish printings,
see, I would never think about that.
all of those things, they're starting to come back around because a lot of that is they are reprints of the American version.
Right.
That's what I was going to ask. So it's just the reprint, but they have Spanish or Greek
Well,
text.
Yeah, and they were a lot of times just weird mashups of and those are starting to be sought by collectors at this point.
How do you say kapow in Greece?
Capo.
Okay. Thanks for settling that.
That was underwhelming.
Kapow. You say it with the Greek, you say it like kapow.
All right, good.
Kapow. You say it with a little bit of a Greek accent.
Good. Next time I see that at the comic
So
store.
you say kapow in English,
kapow.
and I'll say it in Greek. Kapow.
Kapow.
Yeah, kapow.
Kapow.
There you go. All right. Good.
So yeah,
Anyway.
a lot of that stuff is starting to be sought after collectors, but a lot of those were mashups. So they would take multiple issues of American releases and they would combine them into one foreign printing. So it could be you're getting Incredible Hulk number 4 and number 7, or you're getting Incredible Hulk and you're getting Avengers, whatever, and they would put them into the same comic book and they would just call it whatever the comic book was called, but you're reading completely different stuff, out of sequence, out of order, all that kind of thing. And people are starting to really collect those now. One of the cool things they were doing, a lot of the like Australian printings of that, is they would do weird color swaps on the front covers. So like they would change out, your greens and blues and that kind of thing, and they would put weird pastel colors and just all kinds of random color splashing on the covers of these, but collectors are starting to look for those. You're like, hey, that's the first Australian printing, the first Greek printing of Incredible Hulk #1.
I remember they had these little. They called them digests. They were in digest
Yeah.
form, and they were in Greek, but a lot of it was Disney. A lot of it was Mickey Mouse.
I remember
and
having
Donald
Archie,
Duck, and Archie in the digest form. That's how a lot of those were in Greece at the time. And when I would actually buy a comic book from time to time, an American, I had to, once again, my father hated them.
Yeah.
So I had
There's
to
a reason for that.
I had to read it and throw it away.
Yeah. There's a reason for that, of like why parents, why they didn't like that stuff.
Why? What's the reason?
So if you ever want to go down a rabbit hole of comic history in America, it's a deep one. So they referred to it as the 10-cent scare. And it was a research study put out by a German guy, I forget his name now, about how comic books promote degeneracy in children. And that's, it was making the various women's magazines of the time, newspaper articles.
Like alcohol, like
Yeah,
prohibition.
no, it very much, and they attacked it the same way, through, at the time, social media, newsprint, all of those kind of things, and they really attacked and vilified comics, which is why most comics have now what is approved by the Comics Code Authority.
Right. Oh, okay.
That's where this symbol came from, was because in the 40s,
idea.
because in the 40s and 50s, we had, the 10-cent scare. The same thing as the lavender scare, the, whatever scare, whatever the FBI didn't like at the time, it seems like.
I know there's a lot of bondage in the original Wonder Woman comic.
And that's
How do you know
and
that,
there
Johnny?
was. Well, and there was.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's an interesting dude, Moulton. Like, dig into that guy.
He's got a lasso.
He was a little different.
Truth.
He was a little different. They were like, hey, so can we not have 25% of your panels with, women tied up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And, that was real. And they approached him. That's why he got kicked off the book. I mean, eventually the guy who created Wonder Woman was kicked off of his own book because he wouldn't give into that. Now, he had a different kind of lifestyle. Like, he had a living girlfriend with his wife who had 2 kids, and then he had 2 kids with his girlfriend. Like, comics has a really weird, wild, sordid history.
Sounds like a hell of a time.
What it sounds like to me is an entirely separate podcast.
Yes.
Which we need to get into.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I dig it.
that is
dig it.
absolutely a different podcast.
No,
if you ever
I
want to
would
go
love-
down,
we'll make a note and come
if you ever
back
want to
into
go
that.
down the 10-cent plague,
I want to
10
go
cent
down the
scare,
10-cent plague. I want to go down.
That's
I
a
want to
whole
go down
different one.
Degenerate Alley.
No,
I want to. I want to.
People have written books about that, like giant, women strapped down to a table with giant hypodermic needles hanging over top of them, and just all like weird, creepy, Tales of the Crypt. Like, think that, but a little less appropriate.
Risque.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
and they thought that they were, peddling this stuff to kids 10 cents at a time.
I get it.
Look up Seduction of the Innocent, and
Okay.
and I guarantee.
At work or no?
Well, I mean, it's your device. You do what you want. But Seduction of the Innocent is generally what it refers to when you're talking about that period in comic book history. You're largely going to be in the 10-cent era, which is your golden age. So you're talking 40s and 50s. You got congressional hearings. You've got all kinds of
That's wild.
weird things that are like, hey, we're actually corrupting our youth.
It's cyclical because they did the same thing with rock and roll music.
Yeah.
No, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the Tipper Gore.
That's crazy.
Wasp.
All I did was
Right.
all I wanted
Yeah.
to do was,
You got Dee
live
Snider up there
vicariously.
ripping her.
Yeah, live vicariously through these superheroes. That's all I wanted to do.
Right. And so that was a different time period. That was the 60s. So like where you're at with your major publishers, your what became DC Comics and what became Marvel Comics. Largely Marvel Comics is the whole idea of Captain America was founded and funded by U.S. government money to
Propaganda.
it was war propaganda. Like, hey, how about we put a dude with a shield that's red, white, and blue and punching out a Nazi Hitler?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, sounds great. How it got from the late 1930s, 1940s to where we're at now with Captain America. I mean, that's a long story. I mean, he went on ice literally for years.
Right.
You know, and that was one of the books I brought. Was this is the first Silver Age appearance of Captain America? So this is well into the 60s.
Okay, this is let's put that one in front of the camera so we can see it. Let
So
Johnny
this is
do
well
that.
into the 60s when we brought Captain America back out of ice. Like we're well past World War II. You know, we're darn near creeping past Vietnam.
Right.
At this point.
What's that book go for?
Where I think that one will end up ultimately grading out. That's in a private collection that I sold him. I think that one will end up being about $3,000 to $4,000.
Wow.
Because I think that's gonna
also in this sensational issue.
Submariner.
Yeah.
Submariner.
Yeah.
Submariner.
So Submariner is actually he is the Golden Age counterpart to Captain America.
Right.
So when we first start getting Captain America comics in the 40s, we also get Submariner. Like Submariner's in there lifting, German boats out of the water and
the
smashing
underwater
them.
Captain
Yeah.
America.
Yeah.
And like so.
What? Okay, which kind of leads me to a question of like what's hot now that Submariner is in the latest Black Panther movie.
Oh, is he?
With Submariner.
Spoiler alert!
what the hell, man?
Jesus, Dino.
It's been a few weeks. It's been a few weeks. I think you're fine.
I never saw the first one.
First one's in my is in like my 1A.
That's what you said. You said it's the best one. Everybody loves it.
It's not my favorite. It's not my favorite of them, but like I go back and forth.
All right.
We can talk that on a whole
But
different
my
podcast.
point is now that character is in the Marvel universe and films,
Yes.
is that usually a good indication as to what comics will be hot? Like I have a ton of Submariner comics in the basement.
Yeah.
That are just some in great condition, some in not so great condition.
Do
but
they say 12 cents on them?
there might be a 12-cent one down there.
All right.
Is that good?
Yeah.
It's worth a look.
I mean, but they're in bad condition.
Eh,
They're in bad condition. yeah.
Black Adam is. I didn't realize he was a comic book guy. He's a DC
Yeah.
guy.
Mhm.
Right.
I didn't realize that was a thing.
So somebody like Submariner, and it's okay. Like here, you got that over there. Let me just show some. I pulled some stuff randomly.
Oh, boy.
Random is a stack.
That's an orca on the back.
Huh?
That was
Like
an orca
9
movie advertisement on the
9
back.
inches tall.
Like here's a 20-cent issue of Submariner.
Okay.
Okay, there's that one. Like that.
Hold it up for the camera and then let you
But
grade it.
what I'm curious about is stuff that
Is that an Astonishing Adventures of
Is-
X-Men?
it is. This is Amazing Adventures. Actually,
Amazing Adventures. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the reprint issue.
This is the number one.
That's the reprint of number 1. Yep.
Reprint of number one, but they started to recycle these.
Yep.
It's worthless, right? It's worthless.
basically.
Okay.
$2, $3, and like $2 or $3, like
Yeah,
the basic
yeah,
going
yeah.
rate
It
for
might end up in
whatever.
the dollar bin.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
dollar bin. Okay, good to know. But but then I get stuff. Hold on a second. I just wanted to.
Oh, what was that Spider-Man you just passed there?
Spider-Man.
Oh, just Spider-Man 1?
Is that Spider-Man 1? Is that the Torment?
No, it was the.
That is number 13?
This is number one of the.
Number 1. That's Torment.
Yeah, this is Torment, the
Yeah.
5-part series.
It was 13, but yeah.
13. All right.
Yeah.
513.
It says
5,
part
13.
1 of 5 in the bottom.
No, yeah, that was a 5-part.
He
Yeah.
was reading comic books, not math books.
So, yeah, that's all right. Yeah, that's a book worth something.
There you go.
Yeah.
What's
worth a few
worth
bucks.
something?
What's
What's
a
a
few
few bucks
bucks?
to you?
It's looking in good shape.
Like $20 or like $200?
No, it's like a $30, $35 book all
There you
day.
go.
Well, you know.
All day.
all right.
Well, it's a bottle of liquor right
So it's
there.
Todd McFarlane.
All right, like in like the
That's
Punisher.
why.
I know the Punisher.
Oh, the writer
is big.
is
Doesn't
Artist.
matter what the, like
Artist.
the Punisher's big still. Right?
Yeah.
So this is guest star. This is the new Warriors.
Oh,
crap,
yeah.
right?
No, that's crap.
That's crap.
Okay.
All right. And then they started to reissue the X-Men again.
Yeah.
This one.
Okay, so that's Jim Lee.
No doy.
That's worth something.
Okay.
But they also did like 5 covers to that one.
This feels like this was my generation. What year was this out?
1990.
Yep. This is the style
So-
when I started seeing the.
So that's Jim Lee. That's when Jim Lee really took on doing X-Men all the time. Now he is the man at DC Comics. Jim Lee's like, I mean, he's a big deal.
Yeah, that one
Here's
looks
another
legit.
Tales to Astonish, the Submariner, #1.
That's a reprint of Submariner #1.
Right?
Yep.
Right? It means nothing. Because it's Tales to...
So you bought.
so-
I mean, it's never mind.
So Marvel would do that. They would just recycle.
Yes. Well,
They were not. Well,
so recycle, like,
Okay.
that's a strong word.
Like reprint? Is that what you mean by recycle?
Yeah, so they'll reprint things with the idea of like, hey, let's capture a new generation of readers.
Got it.
So like
not like
what-
we're out of stories. Let's try to do this.
right.
one
So
again.
like, what is your value when you read books? Well, the value should be in reading the book, right?
Right. Exactly.
So I'm a reader.
So am I.
I love there's all kinds of branches that we can go on when it comes to comics, whether it comes to the finance side of it, the strategic investment side of it. Like I got a buddy of mine who he's like, hey man, I got more money than sense. Tell me what I should be buying right now that in 5 years is going to pay off for me, 10 years is going to pay off for me. And I'll give him advice. That's not what readers are though.
You're like a financial advisor for comics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean I do that. I on a regular basis I have a small amount of people that I'll discuss those things with. But that's kind of what the community of comic books has turned into is
Sure.
everybody's chasing after, oh, what's the next big thing?
Same thing with bourbon.
What's the yeah, like
Yeah.
it's
You're like the Wolf of Wall Street, you know, like
no.
doing cocaine. off
No.
of-
I mean that would be interesting.
It's the same. I collect vinyl, and it's the same thing.
It's
there.
the same idea.
Yeah,
Everybody's kind of chasing this same ridiculous idea that, oh, I'm going to put my money in good, and then it's going to pay off at some point 5 years, 10 years from now. But the problem is we went through this once already in comics. I don't know if vinyl went through it. I don't know if VHS is now. People are talking about VHS. I don't know what those markets have to say about things. What I know is that the difference between every other collector market and comics is this is uniquely American and it is uniquely your childhood.
Right.
So I don't get
Big
a
time.
particular kind of feeling. Like I love putting a needle on a record. Sure, that's great. But what is reading a story? Like reading a story hits you. There's certain books that I'll go back and reread every 4 to 5 years.
Right. I have a friend that reads Moby Dick every year.
Right. And what I found is that at different times in my life, that book has hit me different.
I agree with that as well.
And, you know, whether that was me at 38 or 28 or 48.
I've read of Mice and Men probably 20 times
Sure.
over the course of my life.
And it's amazing how it hits you differently at
Right.
different points in your life, different seasons, whatever your terminology is. Comics are much the same way. Like I'll always go back and reread Dark Knight Returns, Batman. You know, Frank Miller doing his amazing artwork and amazing storytelling. And the political climate is always different. So it makes me look at the scope of what he's talking about slightly different. Same thing. I'm getting to that point with Mark Miller's Civil War. So Civil War was written post 9/11, and he was talking about some interesting stuff. Like, hey, we all struggle with this idea of how much of our liberty are we willing to give up for personal security, you know, our safety. And that line is always moving. And comics talks about that stuff. And it's not just, oh, timestamp, leave it in a box.
Right.
That's what it was when it was written.
And that seems to be the case, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that how you're discussing the writing and the reading of comics, there seems to be more weight to the stories now than when we were growing up as kids, and Spider-Man would be fighting Doc Ock and pow, bam, boom, kapow.
Kapow.
Kapoo, whatever, whatever the case might be. But there seems to be more
definitely
more
is.
weight and substance.
Yeah, there definitely
from a
is.
literary standpoint.
But I think that it also wouldn't be fair to kind of write off our the ones that came before.
No, I'm
what's
not.
being done now, in that a lot of these people were blazing paths that had not yet been talked about. So when
They say that about racial stuff too.
so I didn't,
comic books, yeah.
and this is the thing, is like I never had the privilege of meeting Stan Lee, and Stan Lee gets all the credit, even though like arguably he was the best figurehead, because Jack Kirby was like, I don't want to be out in front of a camera. Like lots of other people, his contemporaries, and even the people that came a little bit before him. But I always wanted to ask Stan Lee, when you came up with the idea of X-Men, did you make the entire original X-Men team white on purpose? And the reason I say that is because if you go back and look at X-Men, that is a case study in race in America. Of this is a marginalized population. They're different simply because they are. They didn't choose anything or whatever. And I always wanted to ask him, like, did you make them white so that you could introduce the idea of being marginalized simply because of something that you can't change? But if you make them white, then white kids are going to read it.
Right.
And we're talking 1964, 1965, 66. Is there any question that we are not in the heights of racial equality in America? Like, that's we're smack dab in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Professor X, is he Martin Luther King Jr.?
He's Jean-Luc Picard.
No, he's Martin Luther King Jr. And is Magneto Malcolm X?
Interesting.
Like they're literally
Okay.
That is it, because Malcolm X was like, no, we've got our own thing and we're going to do our own thing. And
When did X-Men come out in '64?
But they were still on the same side. That was always.
but
the
they
thing.
were still on this.
frenemies.
But they were frenemies. They were still on the same side. Like they're both chasing after the same goal. Is like,
Different ways
hey,
to fight
how
the same
about
one,
I just be left alone and live my life the way I want to? So is it fair to say that like we didn't have any innovation in comics prior to 2000, the 2000s, when people started really writing kind of a little bit more in depth,
Got a little heavier.
little kind of content.
Did
But-
the Vietnam War have anything to do with that as well?
I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't see how that didn't impact what comics were putting out. And I'd have to go back and reread Captain America at the time period, or the books that he was involved with in Avengers and things like that, and really kind of maybe look at that a little different. But like, I've always thought that early X-Men is just race in America.
You know what? That's kind of blowing my mind a little bit. I never really thought about it.
And
It tracks.
It does track.
but how do you inject that into white America and make it something that the parents aren't going to freak out when they
Make them all white.
make it, make them all white? Like, I always wanted to ask him that. That's the only question. I don't care about his
a good
signature.
question.
I don't care about his signature on a comic book. I don't care about the photo that I get to take with him. Any of that. I just want to ask him, like, did you make them white on purpose? Like, so that
What
so
do you
that-
think his answer would have been?
I don't know.
Do you speculate?
I don't know. Like, so a lot of those early, like all your early Marvel, and DC creators were coming from marginalized communities anyway.
Right.
Like, you're talking about a lot of Jewish Americans who were blocked out of college, because of the 10% quotas. Of universities would only accept up to 10% of the population, of their student body being Jewish minority. And so a lot of them, I wanted to be a professional writer. I wanted to be a, professional artist, so on and so forth. But I couldn't get into university because you had these arbitrary quotas that you held to. So a lot of them ended up gravitating towards, hey, I'm going to go where I can get work. They end up writing comic strips, comic books, different kinds of things. So like, that's the weird thing about comic books in America is it's just American history. Like it is just a whole bunch of touchstones on a whole bunch of other things. And a lot of these people ended up here. That wasn't their goal necessarily, but this is where they ended up.
It's
pretty
fascinating.
Yeah.
Did Stan Lee ever go on the record about this theory? I mean, is it a theory or is it
No,
that's
proven?
just always been what my question was,
his
that
question
I
would have
wanted,
been. That's
like
what-
just on a personal nature,
Yeah.
whether I'm recording the answer or not.
If
Like
he-
I just wanted to know.
You wanted to know.
But I don't think it could be by accident. Like it just couldn't. Like why did we? So we get to hear in Fantastic Four
There's a Black Panther.
number 52.
Right.
This is the first appearance of Black Panther. And it's issue 52.
So they're running out of people. How about a black guy?
So we but we ran 51 issues, and we from 1963, 64
850, by the way, you have written on the back.
to that's about right. We got 52 issues in before we could get an authentically black character.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that says,
I don't know what it says either.
other than it's interesting.
It's I don't know what it says because I don't know where the mindset was when you start talking about that particular topic,
Yeah.
and I never, once again, never thought about it.
Right.
And like it's not being. This is not being. What year is this roughly?
That would
No, what year the comic book?
who let them in?
Yeah, roughly.
That would be, even if you did roughly 12 issues a year. I mean, you're talking mid-late 60s.
I mean, mid-late 60s. So at that point, even though there was a lot going
before
on,
Black America
yeah,
could get a superhero that they could identify with. Now I'd have to go back and check the things.
because I guess what I'm trying to say is like you look in present day and you look about
Mm-hmm.
you talk about where we're not being represented here, we're not being
Yeah.
represented there, so forth and so on. The diversity. So in 1960 something, I don't know what the comic book people were thinking. Like,
Right.
would they be thinking like we,
Maybe we should get a black superhero.
yeah, maybe,
Yeah.
or would it have even crossed their minds back then?
Right.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a great character,
Yeah.
obviously. That's boy. I'm thinking about initially when he comes in. I swear to God, and this is great because all I'm thinking about when we first agreed to come on here was like, let's talk about what the future is for comics, what's valuable, what's this and that.
Yeah.
Like, people are sitting on treasure troves at home, and now we're getting to this
Race
this
relations.
amazing
Yeah, right.
discussion about race and diversity and the
Yeah, and I certainly didn't mean I didn't mean for it to necessarily go to that,
fine.
but like,
That's what I love about this podcast. We go down rabbit holes that I don't expect.
but that is what's cool about comic books. And
It is. It's a whole nother perspective that I
Yeah.
didn't even think about.
yeah. And that's that's where we were at 52 issues in, and we're like, oh man, that's a
And now at 2022, where we have so much guilt, I have to shame on me. Shame on me.
You don't
We're
have
not-
Black
we're-
Panther
we're-
comic
We're
books.
not thinking about it. Back in the 60s. All right, you mentioned 12-cent comic books.
Yeah.
This is a Daredevil.
Ooh,
Yep.
there we
12-cent
go.
Daredevil. I don't.
$42.
Yeah, I don't know which one this is. Like I said, I just pulled it, and you
give it to
mentioned why 12 cent? You mentioned 12 cent. Why was 12 cent such a big deal?
So we use the roughly speaking, we use the price on the book as an indicator of. Hey, you'll be right.
You spilled a whiskey all over it. It was $400.
It's got a big color break crease right across. Say it's.
I know it's an old book. I mean, look, I bought it when it was 12 cents.
So they were meant to be read.
Right.
Like I'll never feel bad about somebody bringing me like, hey man, I know these are kind of beat up.
Nobody bought that
like,
when it was 12 cents, thinking I should save this
It's
and
the same
preserve it
with the
someday
kids
it's gonna be
vinyl.
worth- Yeah,
the
come
kids
on.
vinyl is beat to shit.
Right.
So
It's
if
the
you
same
can
thing
find
with-
Cinderella in perfect condition,
right.
With my 20-cent issue, one of the Defenders, and the reason I brought this one up because they're gonna kill the Submariner right
Yeah.
there on the cover.
No, they didn't.
No, they didn't.
No.
They didn't. Tonight,
When you collected these, did you just look at the pictures on the cover and say this looks tight, or were you like concerned about the chronological order of the
Okay,
story?
so that's Defenders #1.
yeah,
That's not nothing.
There you go.
not nothing, but it's in bad shape. It's
Well-
it's.
I mean, the way you're handling it right now, it might be, but
I don't know what the proper
Smoking
etiquette
his
is. I
cigarette
don't know how
around
to
it.
handle them.
like fisting it.
he's got a heater. He's got a heater and a whiskey flying over there.
You know,
That thing.
These are down in the basement in a box. I'm surprised they're in plastic. For crying out
Yeah,
loud.
that's
There's
nice.
a ton of them that are sitting just out naked with no protection whatsoever.
Naked.
Naked.
Wait,
They're
so
just naked.
answer my question. Were you like
He's
into
just got
the-
naked comic
Did you
books
just
in the
like look at
basement.
them and think they were awesome?
No,
and
at the
buy
time.
'em?
At the time, I thought, "Wow, look at all these great superheroes that are
Yeah.
together in one group." That's
Yeah.
why I got it.
Sure.
Well,
I
they put the Defenders together from that. So like, that's like Bronze Age, 20 cent. So
Yeah.
you asked about the what's the difference in the why we call it
12 cent.
12 cent versus whatever. So 10 cent is consistently golden age. That means different things for different companies. Which we won't go into that one because that's a whole different podcast. And there's people that do comic podcasts. If you
7.
want to,
Yeah, there
know,
are, yeah.
if you want to know about that stuff, like
Do
go.
you listen to any comic book podcasts?
I do.
What's
Of course he does. He has to stay in the.
So, my business partner, him and another guy,
He's got it.
I usually watch theirs. They're reviewing newer books. There's a really good guy out there that does a lot about speculation in terms of finance and things like that. Comic Tom, he's pretty big on YouTube.
Cool.
Yeah,
All right,
there's
Rabbit Trail. Go ahead.
yeah,
Finish
there's
talking
lots
about
of there's
the
lots
Golden
of
Age.
places
Yeah.
if you want to go into that side of things that you can look at just purely the finance of comics. There's also some people that do a great job of just the history of comics. Whatever your particular angle is that you enjoy about comics, you can find that.
So let me ask you. Let me ask you. Not a sentimental question because I think there's sentimentality that comes into it. Why have I hung on to these? These have traveled with me, and gone from house to apartment to so forth and so on to here I am, 63-year-old man.
Yeah.
And I have a shit ton of comics in the basement that have followed me everywhere I went. Why?
Mine, yeah.
Why did I get rid of them 20 years ago when I'm saying, you know what, dump them?
Mine make it through marriage, divorce,
Yeah.
Whatever.
Why?
Like,
What is that? What is it about people that buy comic books that make is it an attachment to their childhood? Is it an attachment to their youth, or is it because I never thought in a million years that I'm going to hang on to these because they're going to be worth something someday until I saw that first Action Comics selling for $1 million. I'm like, oh well, I got old comics. Maybe I got a.
Yeah, no, I think the last one sold for like 4.3 million.
It's crazy. I mean, good crazy.
Yeah.
but crazy.
Yeah,
What do you think that is? Why am I holding on to these?
it's different. It's probably different for everybody, but it's probably the same. It puts you in a time and a place that maybe things were simpler, maybe they were easier.
Yeah.
But I don't think they were any less complicated.
No, when I was a kid and getting comic books, things were very complicated.
And
that's
my life. And that's the thing. Like,
very complicated. And these were
and that's something that Marvel and
escapes.
you've got a whole stack of Marvel books there.
I got Marvel, DC,
You got a couple of DC, but you've got mostly Marvel.
I do.
I don't think that's by accident.
You gravitated to those characters.
Hang on, let me hear.
Marvel,
get into my head. Get into my head.
Okay,
dude.
so Marvel was different. Marvel brought you Peter Parker. And Peter Parker wasn't bulletproof. He couldn't leap tall buildings. He couldn't fly. You know, all of the things. Like, Superman was Superman. Generally speaking, when Stan Lee and, you know, the early creators at Marvel, they came in, it was like, he wrote those characters as he was about to quit. Like, he was about to leave Marvel. But they had a vulnerability to him that was different. And, like, sometimes Spider-Man got the shit kicked out of him. And he was flawed, and he was geeky, and he was kind of a nerdy kid. He got picked on at school.
He was a kid.
And he was a kid.
He was a kid.
And there was something that was identifiable about that. It's why Marvel is what it is now, and maybe why DC isn't what it is by comparison.
You mentioned I have a lot of Marvel. I do.
You have a lot of Marvel.
I do have a lot of Marvel. Yeah, and yet, if I were to pick a favorite comic book character, it would be the Batman.
Sure. What's common about Batman?
No superpowers.
He's a dude.
He's a dude, and that's what I related to.
He's a dude. His superpower is he's got a shit ton of money.
Yeah. Well, I didn't relate
Just
to that
like
part
us.
of it.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, that's his only discernible superpower. Some people have argued that, like, no, super genius is a superpower. I won't go in the weeds on that.
Well, no,
one.
but I never considered him to be a super genius. I considered him to be a great detective.
He's a great detective.
Hence and that's what I loved about the latest movie.
Yes,
was
yes.
that actually followed more
that
of a
follow
detective
through of that was the best. And I get it. People don't like, oh, you know, he's a sparkly vampire, whatever. I really don't give a shit.
No,
that was the best detective we have ever seen.
Right.
On screen, full stop. I don't care. You can take all the rest of them and throw them out the window. That was the best detective we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, that was real. That was gritty. It was street level. That was a dude that was coming into his own and figuring out who he was and what he needed to do. And it wasn't perfect. It was a little bit, you know, it was a little bit choppy, you know, in some spots, but that was a guy figuring it out.
And that's why I dug it.
Yeah.
So what do we all like in comics? We like real. And they don't have to be perfect. And that was the idea that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko and all of those guys brought us in early Marvel was, no, they've all got a weakness. And it's not just kryptonite. Like, that's lazy and easy. And I get it. Like, I have one of my poll guests is the biggest Superman fan on the planet. Like, he owns original art from the Death of Superman arcs, all those kind of. He was recently on one of our podcasts, and he is rolling in there with the original comic book pages that were drawn by the artists of this stuff. I mean, this is just thousands and thousands of dollars worth of original art, the original sketch pages sitting on the table, and I'm like, yeah, but it's Superman.
Yeah. Well, and to prove your point, the
Not
only comic
literally
books I have
Death of Superman
are the Death of Superman.
Death of Superman.
These are the only Superman comics I have.
So, like,
because everybody was talking
4.5
about it,
million,
and you felt you needed to buy
4.5 million copies or whatever it was.
And that's why this is worth nothing, because
Right.
there's 4.5 million copies sold.
Oh, that's Neil Adams right there.
Right here.
That is some fantastic Neil Adams. That is. I love that book.
This is a book.
That's a great book.
It's a 15-cent
That's
Batman.
Oh God, stop bending it.
I can't. It was bent by itself.
Sweet baby Jesus and all the saints.
Here,
Stop
take-
bending that.
Take it away from me, then.
Put it in one of your
Take it away
bulletproof
from me.
cases.
God, what are you doing?
I didn't know. It was sitting in a box like
You're
that.
hurting me right now.
It was sitting in a box like that. I didn't know what I was doing.
You punched me in my comic book soul. No, that's Neil Adams. So, like, this is early Neil Adams.
Right? Can we bend it back?
Yeah, it's gonna get there.
What year is that from, Ish?
So this would be the 70s.
Yeah.
We can pop it open real quick. 1970.
Put on a glove.
Look at that. You're
1970.
good. Now, is that see? I have no idea. Is it worth anything?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Seriously?
I mean, I don't remember right off the top of my head.
I
but
don't care.
So
Just the fact you said yes.
this is an iconic cover
Right.
because it's Neil Adams. He did just recently like suddenly pass. And it's Neil Adams. Like, I mean, that's just badass Neil Adams stuff right there.
Put it back in whatever.
As he spills the whiskey on it.
You know what? I don't want to touch it ever again.
You know what?
Okay, so is it the $30 or the $300?
No, it's not in condition. It's not going to be 300.
Yeah.
But it's just a beautiful cover.
It's a beautiful cover.
So,
So there's a part of me that says, like, well, if it's not, there's
we talked about.
There's a part of me that said, if it's not $300, I'm gonna fucking keep it.
Well,
So we talked about
do you
this
frame? Do a lot of people
Yeah.
frame these and put them on their walls? I know they do.
Sure.
A lot of vinyl collectors.
So
do
like
that.
I've got some graded books here, and this is a common thing. This is for people who want preservation and archival. But also it is about I want my stuff protected. You know, there is the component of this score means all the difference in the world. You know, this book in a 9.8, you know, that's a little outdated price tag. But
$3,200?
But
you're gonna get beat up on the way to your car tonight.
well,
No, you're not. No, I know who's in this room. You're fine. You're good.
generally speaking, I think I'm all right.
Unless it's me. And as your host, I think that'd be a shitty way to end the
That'd
podcast.
be a horrible way to go.
Yeah.
He shows up. You're rolling in
Yeah,
the
we're rolling.
dough.
He's on the show. He opens up his soul. He brings up racial matters in comic books from the 1960s, and then I kick his ass and steal his shit.
I'm a scrappy Indiana kid.
Those Fort Wayne boys.
So that one is
Ultimate Fallout. Spider-Man No More.
See, I don't buy comics now anymore. So when did that come out?
Issue 4.
2011.
It came out in 2011.
It's only 10, 11 years old.
And there you go, and it's worth
2011.
And why is that?
So-
why is that worth $3,200?
That's a little
just-
it's a little high, but yes.
but still, it's
like,
still worth close to that.
all day. That is $2,000 to $2,500.
Why?
So this is first appearance of Miles Morales. So you asked me a couple of questions leading into tonight. Mm-hmm. What's the future of comics?
Yes, I did. What is the future?
So I would love to circle back on that. Is Miles Morales the future of comics? Arguably, yeah.
Why?
He throws back. So I think there's two things. Like when you ask me what's the future of comics, I think the past is the future of comics.
Sure.
And all day we can point to the movie that just came out, Black Panther. And
the Fantastic Four is getting rebooted.
And the Fantastic Four is going to be brought in fully into Marvel,
Into
to
the-
Disney Marvel
right,
proper.
Right.
And Captain America. Mm-hmm. So when you say, hey, what's the future of Marvel? Is it the past or is it the future?
Both.
It's both.
Yeah.
Like, is there anything more fucking American than that?
No, there really isn't.
It's
Captain America lives again.
they're just getting ready to do a reproduction cover on an upcoming comic that is literally this cover but swapped with Disney characters.
Oh, wow.
Like you're gonna have Mickey Mouse jumping out as Cap.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Is there like this is Jack Kirby
Yeah, I can tell.
And-
I now that I do. I know Kirby's art
because he's got the square
Yeah,
faces
square
and like
face.
this is Jack Kirby and Stan. Like, what is more American than Captain America and Avengers? Now, no question, this was a throwaway team. When this came out, this was the B team. They were like, "Hey, what do we do with the Hulk? You know, what do we do with Thor and Ant-Man and Captain? Like,
Who was the A team then? Spider-Man,
X-Men.
X-Men. Oh, X-Men. Okay.
X-Men.
Sorry.
X-Men ran the planet. Like, I mean, X-Men's great.
Got it.
I'm a mutant kid. You know, like that's my reading. You put John Byrne, Chris Claremont, sure, in front of me, that is my childhood. Like, I'm not an Avengers kid. Oh no.
It's okay. Finish it.
Finish it up, buddy.
This is my all-time favorite comic cover ever.
Is that Storm?
No, that is Polaris.
Ooh,
And
I love that shopping mall.
it's for me, this like the reason this is on the reason this is on my Mount Rushmore of all comic covers, it's not because it's like a particularly significant book. It's like her third appearance or whatever. It's not a key in that way. But Jim Steranko, the artist, Toledo guy, he did that with like 3 colors.
So is
You know,
that
this
go
is
in,
in the-
does that go into the value? Who wrote it? Who drew
Of course.
it? Everything.
It matters when it matters.
When
yeah.
it matters.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like in the case when I'm going to go way back to the beginning of this
Mm-hmm.
podcast, sometimes it is the actual case of when a certain character came into a certain book, like Hulk, Wolverine.
Sure.
Sometimes it's just
Yeah,
the
like
nature of the history.
yeah, the first the first
Like this
4,
one, Captain America
Yeah,
Lives
the first
Again.
4 issues
They
like
unfroze him.
Like I sold a 2.0 Avengers 1 a handful of weeks ago. And a 2.0 is not a very good looking book. Like it's fine. I mean, I sold it for $2,600. But
What?
but
You sold a shitty comic book for $2,600?
but that's American.
Yeah, that's
That's when the game kind of changed a little bit. Is they're like, hey, let's bring Cap out of ice. He's been in there for 40 years and we haven't used the character in forever. Well, let's roll that guy back out here. Now we don't think Marvel and not think about Cap.
no, you don't. What about when they do something cheesy like this? This is Marvel Team Up.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is Spider-Man and the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Okay, this is now Guardians of the Galaxy. When this book came out, was not even a thought in movie makers' eyes. at that
Guardians was
particular-
terrible.
Huh?
Guardians was terrible.
Great
Yeah.
soundtrack though.
No, okay, so side note, number 1 Marvel movie for me, the original Guardians of the Galaxy.
The first one.
Yes,
that was good.
The first one.
Yeah,
No, it wasn't good. It was
great.
great.
it was great. And when they do team up like this, is like they think about Shang-Chi Master of Kung Fu, Spider-Man Master of Kung Fu. These are I picked these
Yeah.
because these are movies that have gotten
Yes.
popular again.
Yeah.
Black Widow and Nick Fury.
Yeah. Oh, is that a Man Thing 1?
It is.
Hey.
Now we're talking, Dino.
Oh God, you gotta hand me that Punisher that's 2 down.
This one.
Oh, and the one right above it. Come
There you go,
on, what are you
Dino.
doing over
Sign
here?
it, She-Hulk.
Yes, that. Oh my gosh, please, just
That She-Hulk good.
She-Hulk. She has.
Well,
a
I
new
know that she's
series.
got a show
come
on Disney.
on.
She's
She's
got a
a
show
lawyer.
on Disney.
I love me some
That's
She-Hulk.
That's
She's
a
a lawyer.
That is a really nice copy of Savage She-Hulk #1.
Damn boy.
Come on,
I haven't.
slow rolling me over
It's
here.
I'm
hot,
slow
baby,
rolling
hot.
you. I'm no rolling you. I have no idea what I got.
Come
Those
on,
green boobs they're good looking green boobs.
We can do a little green boobs. The man said.
Green boobs.
We can do a little cleanup on this.
You can do whatever
give it,
you
Give it a
want.
nice press, and
And sell it
her
for what?
boobs will look fantastic.
And what would it sell for?
You might be
12 cents.
You might be in the not 12 cents.
There's
You could be in the 150 range on that.
on this.
Yeah.
Cost me-
Come on, you're
You don't
poking
know
at
what
it
you
like I didn't
have.
just tell you that's like $150.
There's probably $10,000.
Hey,
in my
and this is a
basement.
newsstand. All right.
All right.
Damn, man,
clean.
you've been sandbagging, bro.
I'm not sandbagging. I'm not saying this is a man who took his comic books with him from childhood to now,
Okay.
and is sitting with a comic book expert.
So here's the question. You're 60 something.
I'm 63.
You know.
Why sell them? Yeah. What am I waiting for? Will them to you?
What,
I don't think
well,
so.
no. That's exactly my point. What are you going to do with them? I mean, is now you
Now's the
sell
time to
them,
sell 'em.
or
Yeah,
do you,
sell 'em now.
or what? What's the other option?
I
Give them to your daughter. Maybe
no,
she
no,
wants them.
my daughter will throw them away. She won't know.
He's digging the Punisher over here.
I like the Punisher. It's a nice, clean copy. Like, it's not a perfect copy.
Nothing.
But-
none of these copies will be perfect.
No, but this isn't bad. Like, if this would get a 9.2, like, I mean, you might be looking at a couple $100 on
Damn,
this.
dude, what the
Ka-ching,
hell?
ka-ching.
So-
you start adding up all these couple.
What time do you guys open up
man.
tomorrow?
So Punisher first came to us in Amazing Spider-Man 129.
Right.
That's like $1,000 a point book, and when I say $1,000 a point, I mean like on the grading scale.
So
Like,
if I had Spider-Man 129 downstairs with the Punisher,
yeah,
if I had it,
Yeah.
in average condition,
few thousand.
I'm gonna look really hard.
Keyword being hard.
You're
He's like, oh,
pictures of all the other guys and
Until
take
he finds
pictures
out he doesn't have it, and then he's like, oh.
No, I don't have it. Yeah, that's the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, that's rad.
You know what? Which one is that?
Yeah,
The
what about
number one.
Raiders and Star
No,
Wars?
which Raiders?
Which is
the
first one, the Raiders.
Okay.
Number one.
Yeah, that's worth a few bucks.
Yeah. What about
So-
Star Wars stuff?
So Star Wars,
Johnny's a Star Wars boy.
Yeah.
Star Wars does a couple interesting things on Star Wars. That was a really early multi-reprint book. So you got to be real careful on Star Wars #1. If you see 35-cent on the cover,
Yeah.
it's probably a supplemental printing. Second, third, fourth print, whatever. Some of them say reprint, some of them don't. If you see one that says 35 cents and it's in a dollar bin, just go ahead and buy it. It's fine. It's $1. Because if you ever hit the one, and I only know one guy that owns one, and there is a random 35-cent variant of #1. So in 1977, Marvel did their test markets. Let's take
There
a
you
peek.
go.
What if
Take a
it's
peek.
that? If that's it?
That's a reprint.
No! So close, Hansberry.
I had
you
called
thought
my boss like
you
on the phone.
thought you were right
So,
there. You
a
thought
whole
you had
bunch of-
Davis's college paper.
So a whole bunch of these, that's #4, but a whole bunch of them were reprints because Star Wars, like it blew up.
Sure.
Sure.
So they started issuing reprints. Well, that was like a weird like pocket in comic book time
I'll give this
stamping.
to you, John. You can read
So
it
there
later.
was the most copies of Star Wars #1 first print had 30 cents on them. The 35-cent variant was only put out in test markets. Marvel was literally testing, can we go from 30 to 35 cents? There's only maybe 5 test markets in the country where they wanted to see, hey, can we make 35 cents stick? One of them was in Northern Ohio. So I have one poll guest who he had a 35-cent variant, like a legit actual 35-cent variant. He remembers distinctly buying it off the stands. He was like, and I was pissed.
Sure.
He's like,
5
because
cents extra?
I had to spend 35 cents on that damn comic book instead of 30 cents on all the other ones. Now, it's not even close. Like the price comparison between the two, he has since had it cleaned up and pressed. It graded out at about a 9.0.
So you can clean these up and make
You
them better.
can. You can.
You mentioned that.
Yeah.
What?
Is Human Torch #1?
The Human Torch
Yeah,
#1. I
it's
figured
good.
I pulled
It's
this
good
up
stuff.
because I know Fantastic Four's coming
Yeah.
back.
You got a lot of #1s.
So yeah, and
It's
so,
not his first appearance, but like it's still a
but
cool
it's,
book.
It's a
Yeah.
cool book. Yeah.
So yeah, he had he actually has.
I can't wait till we go in the basement and go through these one at a time. And I'm just gonna bring a calculator with me and see what I got.
He has so this guy has a legitimate 35-cent variant, and it's in my holy grails. You know, you were talking about albums earlier. Hey, what's a grail?
Right.
35-cent Star Wars for me. Like, it's a $10,000 book
So you either save up and
versus
buy one.
like a $200 book.
So you either save up and buy one, or just luckiest SOB on
Oh
the
yeah,
planet.
maybe you find one in a garage sale somewhere.
Yeah, and he was legitimately pissed as a kid of I had to pay 35 cents for my comic book, not 30. Which that's a significant percentage. You know,
Sure.
that's like quantifiable on a 30-cent comic book is a 5%, you know, a 5-cent increase.
And I was like, whatever.
And he's like, this is bullshit. And he has one of generally speaking, they catalog it as like 4,500 copies ? They don't know how many of these actually exist because they weren't keeping particularly good detailed records back then. And he's just got one. Like,
compared to the 4 million Superman's dead.
right.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I'm just throwing you for a crazy loop. What about novelty magazines? Because I have these.
He brought these with him. I wanted to get to them before we wrap things up.
Right?
Yeah.
Ask him now.
Yeah, ask him now, man. Go for it.
That was a Mad Magazine.
Look,
guy.
so
I've got
drinking
some,
whiskey and talking about comic books is like any day that ends in a Y with me.
I've got some 1987 mid 80s cracked magazine.
The runner-up to Mad Magazine.
not Mad
That's right.
Magazine, although I have a couple Mads.
I was a Mad Magazine guy.
So was I.
I actually, my older cousin handed these down to me. I was way too young to be reading them. I
Sure.
probably don't understand half the jokes. But look at MASH,
MASH.
Star Trek,
and Charlie's Angels.
Those are three. Those are
Yeah.
That's my childhood.
There you go. All right, I'll sell them to you for $300.
Well, if you didn't have these price stickers on here from Brad's Books in Delaware, Marion, Ohio,
Now you know where we got them.
maybe. So my dad named me after
Crack.
Scotty
Beat me up.
on Star Trek.
Did he really?
Yeah. Who doesn't love Charlie's Angels? And
So
best
does
and best sitcom ever is MASH.
MASH, yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to call it a sitcom, yeah. It was.
Yeah.
I mean, it
I mean,
came
I
out
own,
as a sitcom.
yeah, I own the Martinis and Medicine box set. Like,
Yeah.
I had to get that when it came out.
Yeah. So does he have anything there?
No.
Couple bucks, $2, $1.
Well, and then I think
I
about,
feel like Antique Roadshow right now.
yeah,
That's
I
right.
know. Right?
Like, you're like,
I-
hey, man, what do you think this is? I'm like, it's shit.
And then I think I pulled this one out
We
because I
smash
always
MASH.
wonder why this didn't take. And this was a bad movie that didn't take, but it was Doc
Is it-
Savage, Man of Bronze.
Oh,
And like I love this character, and I don't
Yeah.
know why it never took.
well,
It wasn't
know?
very enthusiastic.
No, but
DC? Oh, no, that's Marvel.
that's Marvel.
Doc Savage?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's just okay.
No,
so-
I dig your Defenders. You actually have a couple of cool things in here.
in this little pile, and
Yeah.
there's like hundreds more in the basement.
No, you have some cool stuff in there. You got Defenders 1.
Yeah.
I sold one of those recently. It wasn't crazy money, but it was Defenders 1.
And Hansberry made a good point. I'm 63. I don't need to hold on to him any longer.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
run its course, right? Of the
There's
nostalgia.
There's a reason. If tonight is the reason that I've held on to these books for this long,
It's been worth it.
to sit here and talk on a podcast with Scott, if this is the
Yep.
time to go,
I'm going through the same thought with all my CDs. Nobody wants any fucking CDs anymore. They're taking up space in my garage, but I can't get rid of them.
So do you do consignment, or how do you work your business?
We generally we haven't historically done consignment.
Okay.
It's something. I mean, I'd be
yeah. Where does the
willing-
seller
yeah,
go
yeah.
when he wants
Yeah,
to sell?
that's what I'm
Like,
asking.
I
You
want
bring
to
them
sell
in.
Defenders 1.
you bring them
you're
in.
going to give them 30% of what it's worth because you got to resell it, right?
Yeah. And that's a whole different.
And I don't mean that because I used to work at a used record store.
Right.
I get
right.
the business.
Yeah, and
of
that's
it.
a whole different like animal. You can always sell it for more if you're willing to do the work yourself.
Oh well. there.
But that's a
eBay.
job.
I got an eBay store.
Do you have an eBay store?
Yeah.
Right, but that's a job, and you pay a monthly subscription for your eBay store.
I'll give you 10%.
Only if you make over more money than I'm making right now, though.
Okay,
I'll give you 10%.
but you know what I
Deal.
mean.
Done.
Um,
And you have to pay for
So-
packaging.
yeah,
It's a pain in the ass.
it's a pain in the ass.
I've been
And-
selling
and
some
every-
shit and it sucks.
And that's inevitably what happens is people come in and like, hey man, I've got these books and blah blah blah, and they're like, you don't know anything about grading.
Nope.
You don't know anything about what you have and what its actual value is. You saw somebody online selling a 9.8 graded
Yeah.
Punisher miniseries, from 1986 at a 9.8 for $1,000, and you think that you have
Of $1,000
you have
comic book.
$1,000 comic book, and you're upset that I'm offering you like $60 for it, and you're like, no, you have like the $200 version.
What's the Vegas show where they like the pawn
Pawnbrokers?
shop, pawn
Yeah.
stars.
Pawn
Yeah.
stars.
You see that all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I saw this for $4,000
No.
online. He's like, I'll give you $80.
Yeah,
Yeah,
have
they,
I have
no, they
no-
don't know what they're talking
yeah,
about.
yeah,
and,
yeah, yeah.
and
And
that's
I don't. I have no illusions at
And
all as
that's
to what's in the
not,
basement or what's even here.
yeah, and I've never like. So part of what I do is, the better you can bridge the knowledge gap, the better off you can secure
Got
the
it.
things that you're looking
And
for.
that's one of my questions I have. Who do you trust when you're in this world?
Are you licensed? Do you know people who are licensed?
Who do you trust?
So there's not necessarily a licensing for it.
I know.
Well, to answer his question,
Well, yeah, I'm just
there isn't necessarily licensing, but if somebody isn't willing to walk away from your books, then they probably don't know what they're talking about. So if you've got $10,000 worth of books sitting in front of you, so I bought a collection back in October, and it was probably, by the time I priced it all out at regular retail, it was about $29,000.
Wow.
And I bought it for about $7,500. We came to an agreement. If they're not willing to understand that all of your $2 books that add up to $15,000 aren't actually worth anything,
you got to sell them.
I have to sell them.
You got to sit on them for
like
forever.
that's the job.
Yeah.
Like that's what that's what we do. That's how I earn a living. What anybody else does in the day that you say is like, yeah, but that's my work. Like that's what I get up at. Like that's what I have to work at.
Right.
It's not the easy stuff that just happens. Of somebody walks in and offers me $2,600 for a Avengers #1. That's easy. All of the other crap,
You've got to keep.
that's the work.
You've got to keep an inventory.
Right. Like
of-
that's my
of-
job.
of everything that's out there.
Yeah.
When I was a comic on the road, and I can't remember the comic book store I went to, but I would have, when I was still collecting them, I would have my friend pull for me, and I would
Yep.
pick them up and pay for them. And when I came back from the road, but yeah, you have to keep an inventory.
That's
you have to keep.
that's my job.
You got a
you pay
retail
for your
space.
knowledge, your,
Yeah.
your
You got rent.
experience.
You've got you've got all kind of
Yeah.
stuff, the factors to think about. Wow. This has been
All I can
only
say
have one
is
more question.
it sounds like we're going to do this again.
fun.
yeah, we're gonna do this again on a deeper level because you intrigued me with the whole societal part of it.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and I want to take a deeper dive into that
Yeah.
someday, and just about that. There's been so many little things that we started to go down rabbit holes that we couldn't go completely down.
Yeah.
We'll be here for 4
Yeah.
hours that I'd like to come back and visit separately
Yeah.
and specifically before
Let's
it's
get a
all said and
professor
done.
to do it.
Comic books are American history.
Yeah, they are. They are. What's your
Well,
question?
and like this sounds like a dumb question, but it's also, I mean, it's a real question. Comic book guy, The Simpsons is my favorite show.
Yeah.
I mean, is that a term of endearment, or
No.
that's a
No,
a
it's
slam?
it's pejorative.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Comic book guy.
So
Okay. No, that's all. That's all I needed to know.
No. Not so much with me. I'll expand. Not so much with me, because we're weird. We're fucking nerds. Like, sorry, I don't know if I'm supposed to swear on your show or not.
No, you can't.
But-
I did.
But like, we're weird creatures. We don't necessarily like each other. I've always found that a little problematic. Of comic book store owners they're weird and they're a little creepy, and they I'm speaking generally, but
Yeah.
they're not always like the most friendly people.
But not you.
Not me.
Not you.
No.
You're not weird.
No, I'm talking
You're not
about another
creepy.
guy
You're
that's
friendly. You're
not-
talking about
that's
another
not
comic
me.
book store owner.
So like,
Wearing a shirt that says Geek King.
look, I will 100% plug this guy, because geeking that's my guy.
It looks like Night Owl. Fritz the Night Owl.
So
That
so
does have a
geeking
little-
is actually a local Columbus guy. Mm-hmm. He writes a comic book, several comic books, all ages and adult comics. Victor Dandridge Jr. and he is my business partner's filming partner when they do their comic book review show.
Say his name again.
His name is Victor Dandridge Jr.
Why does that name come up? I think somebody actually suggested him to me for a podcast.
He's great. Like, if I'm fun, he's twice that.
We should do like that Kevin Smith show. Get you and your other boys and just sit around and talk comic books in the basement. You can
Get
just-
Yeah.
Steve Lee to show up too.
Yeah, no. Victor's amazing.
Kevin Lee can come
He doesn't really drink. He's
You don't have to drink. You don't have
He's
to
kind of
drink.
terrible at
You don't have
that.
to- You don't have to drink to be.
I'll
on this
drink
podcast.
Kevin
his.
Smith.
It's
You don't have to
fine.
drink to be on this podcast. That's
It's a misnomer.
yeah, it is actually. It really is.
Jason Lee.
But
Yeah,
he
okay.
he brands himself as the hardest working man in comics. He's doing GalaxyCon this coming weekend. It's going to be at the convention center. He's hosting tons of the celebrity panels. That's what he does. He travels around the country hosting celebrities for their events at the various comic book
So
conventions.
he's doing what he loves and loves
Yeah,
what he does.
he loves what he does.
Yeah.
He's written some wildly impactful comics on me. The Samaritan, which is a divorced dad talking about literally having the fireside chat with his kid about why it didn't work out between him and his mom, and it just real stuff. And like he's kind of like, I mean, him and I are kind of the same. Like, we're just real people, and he has written about a lot of his his experiences as it relates to that. So like, I'll always wear his geeking.
All right. Well, hey man,
like, we're all kings.
A plug to the geeking.
And you are the exception to the rule. You're sitting here talking very graciously to your cohorts. And I
No, yeah, I'm.
you're not like these.
I generally
the
love
creepy
comic
dudes.
book people. Even like I said, store owners are a little weird. We always think that like if you steal a sale from me, then like you took food out of my kid's mouth. Like, we're weird
In that respect, but that's any business.
Yes.
I don't care.
Yes.
You sell tires.
Yes.
It's going to be the same way.
Yeah.
You're taking money from my family because you
punched my kid
Yeah.
in the schoolyard.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
and you're discounting your tires 30% when
Yeah.
what are you doing?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the business is. That's always going to be the case.
Yep.
In respects to my last question, because you mentioned somebody earlier who said who was looking at it as an investment opportunity. What is the range of your clients? Your clients range from the comic book. I say this affectionately: the geek, to the collector, to the investor, to the. Do you have all walks of life? Do you have doctors and lawyers coming
Yes.
in to get comic books?
Yes.
Do you have judges? Do you have nurses?
So
What's the gamut of the people that come into your store?
yes. So I've got high school kids, that are at the DACC, up in Delaware, working through the, whatever program is that they want to do. And, these are some, 16, 17-year-olds that are just like, man, I just, love comics. I like reading these stories. I like reading about relatable characters. All the way up to, doctors at Mount Carmel and, surgeons that if you go and Google their name, you're going to find them, to lawyers that if you go and look them up, the one I was saying that was a big Superman collector, the man's, he has a lobbying firm in the state of Ohio that reaches literally to the Cleveland Browns and the governor's office. So
what's your pet? So for them, this is their,
and I don't need to sell that guy anything.
Yeah.
Like, he just loves comics.
He just loves
That guy's
comics.
been buying comics from Comic Town since he was in college at Ohio State.
So there you go. I mean, it's just,
And
he
you know,
loves.
however many decades later, he still buys comics from us.
And this is a guy with a successful practice and a
Oh.
lobbying firm, and
Yeah.
that the last thing you would think in the world is that he collects comic books.
Mm-hmm.
That's the interesting thing about life, guys, is that the things that you're passionate about sometimes don't always match up with what you do in the real world. Our good friend Billy DeMora, who is the world's most superstitious Buckeye fan, right, is now a senator.
Yeah.
He is our
Yeah.
senator.
Crazy.
So there you go. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
it's nuts. And for those kids that come in and say, "Man, I just love reading comics," I feel for you children, because this was 35 cents back in the day, and you're paying
1977.
Yeah,
35 cents.
Yeah, 19 cents. But what are you paying now?
$5.
About $3.90. Your average book's about $3.99.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, by comparison, I know inflation,
Yeah,
costs, et cetera, et cetera.
But we've held the $3.99, and I'm going to give the publishers a little nod. They've held it through the paper shortages and all of the other nonsense that we've dealt with in the last 2.5 years. They've still basically held the line at $3.90. There was an old DC thing, drawing the line at $2.99. Mm-hmm. That was the thing that they did, and they were like, "No, we're gonna hold all of our stuff at $2.99." They ran that promotion for some number of months, and then they were like, "Oh yeah, by the way, our stuff's $3.99." So
That was a Christmas special.
right. So
But
we're getting,
to that point, 35 cents to us back then was $3.99.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when you talk
For
about
somebody to piss them
when you
over
talk
a
when you
nickel.
talk about the 12-cent
Right.
comics and
Like
the
a-
10-cent comics.
if a loaf of bread's 35 cents, then
Right.
a loaf of bread's $3.99 now.
Exactly. All right, man. We got to wrap this up, but thank you so much. Let everybody know where Comic Town is, where you're at, where they could go, and if
Yeah.
they wanted to find, if they're looking for a place to go to do what they do.
We are
Social
at
medias.
94 Dilmont Drive. Facebook, Instagram,
Why are you looking at
Twitter.
me? I'm trying to find you on Instagram right now.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's just Comic Town. It's pretty straightforward. I don't know why you're still punching on your phone.
Because I can't spell Comic Town that fast.
He can't spell fast.
He's
is what
all
he's trying to say.
He's all thumbs.
Yeah. In so many ways.
Is that at World
World of Comic Town. Yeah.
World of Comic Town.
There
Comic
you go.
Town.
Yeah, you can find it there too.
Shipping and retail. So if you're listening out of state, you'll mail some stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Sure. All right. Well,
following
obviously
you,
we got
baby.
other grounds to cover in in 2023. But Scott Morris, thank you so much for being with us tonight, man. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the whiskey.
Yes, I did.
We finished the SC Callahan. The guest. Well, no, we didn't.
There's a dribble in there.
There
last
it
of
is.
it.
There it is.
Uh-oh.
I will finish that. And thank you so much, man. I hope you enjoyed yourself this evening.
did. Thank you, sir.
We had a blast. You privately will be coming back to my house and going into the basement and some wintry Sunday.
That's ominous.
See, I know, right? Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah, no, that's going to happen.
No. No, I'm a grown-ass man.
No, there's a
You can't make me go in your basement.
there's a that's where the comic books are.
Yeah, I'll fight.
If you feel better about me bringing them upstairs, that's fine.
If you don't call me when you get home, I'll call the cops.
Yeah, no, we're good.
No, you're actually going to come look at my comic books.
Well, I will.
How many guys?
You're going to come look at
No,
my
no.
comic books.
We'll figure out a third party
We don't need
rendezvous
a third
point.
party. You know,
Feel
third
free to
party.
join me at my store.
I can't bring all these comic books to your
No,
store.
you can't. That's unreasonable.
That's unreasonable. Well, all right. Then we'll find them.
Bring them upstairs.
I'll bring
Yeah.
them upstairs.
All right. In the
If you
meantime,
saw my basement, you would fucking dig
very
it.
nice
Yeah,
down there.
you would
Yeah,
dig
yeah.
the basement.
It's not a
pull the-
basement.
just pull the curtains. We're
Oh,
fine.
for crying out loud.
Whiskey Business is your podcast, not so much about
Yeah.
whiskey as it is one with
I've
whiskey.
talked to this man
whiskey.
for an hour and a half, and
And he
now he's
doesn't
afraid to
trust
go to
you.
my basement and go
Well,
look at comic books.
He's
What does he think is
serious,
going to happen?
When an elder statesman invites me into their basement, I have questions.
Elder statesman.
Thanks for subscribing on your favorite podcast.
Before you go down to
app.
the basement, look at my comic books, put this lotion on your skin.
Oh,
What the fuck do you think I'm going to do?
Puts the lotion in the basket.
Thanks for subscribing.
This is probably the oddest ending of a podcast.
Feel free to edit that.
No.
No. You're not editing that
I'm
shit.
not editing any of that. Anyway,
We're
finish
trying to
up.
gain our YouTube subscribers. So if you're listening on our podcast, thank you very much. But
Scott
check
Morris,
check
Exhibit
out
A.
Check out our
He forced
our
me to
YouTube
put the
channel.
lotion in the basket.
That's right. We need subscribers.
There you go.
Subscribe. Why aren't you
Let the man
subscribing?
finish
How about-
his business?
Oh, I think you did. Who, me?
Yeah,
you.
Oh, I'm done.
Do we all say Hulk smash?
No, we did
Oh wait.
not.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We need people to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Whiskey Business with Dino Tripodis. So just
With who?
Whiskey Business with Dino Tripodis.
There you go.
So just go ahead and
Smash.
smash that.
Hulk
subscribe
smash.
It was better the first time around.
Yeah,
Hulk smash.
it was it's more organic. Not really.
button. But it wasn't Hulk related.
All right.
You got a Hulk smash.
As we start to wrap things up, this will be dropping right around the first week of December. We can look forward to our annual Christmas show here on Whiskey Business to wrap up the year, which will be taking place right here at my house. I don't have it all planned out yet, but we'll have another Christmas.
I hope it's really snowing outside.
I really do too. I really
That'd
hope
be really
it is.
fun.
I really hope it
You
is.
get a piano player to just play piano in the background.
I used to have a piano here.
Oh shit!
I used to have, yeah, but you can see there's no place to put it now. I used to have a piano
I
here.
know somebody with a baby grand.
Yes, you do. All right. Our guest has been Scott Morris from Comic Town. I want to thank John Whitney on the video side. Thank you. Greg Hansberry on the audio side. And my name is Dino Tripodis. Until the next bottle, see ya.
Cheers.